Welcome to the Absite Smackdown podcast. We'll talk clinical scenarios, interesting Absite facts, and interesting general surgery knowledge. Now, let's get to it.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's Jessica, your host of Absite Smackdown podcast, and here with me is Dr. David Cashmere. Hey, Dr. David.
Hey, Jessica. Good to be back with you today.
Thanks for coming in. So I'm pretty excited because it is mid-November, which means we're 6 weeks out from the Absite test.
Yeah, it's that time of year again. And I'll tell you, it comes up on you quickly. Every year, it's about the same time of year, but every year it sure feels like it's on you almost before you know it.
Well, I think people just need to think holiday time means study time.
Yeah, every holiday time seems to be study time because you have some time off. And then when you do, you sit there and you say, oh, I should probably read something now. But you're right. It's especially this time of year where it's holiday time and it's study time.
All right. Well, because it's 6 weeks out, I feel like you're kind of the perfect person to go into what everyone should be doing. Since you are a former resident director, I think that would be really helpful if you shared with us what you would usually have your residents do about this time.
Well, like you said, I was a program director, and one of the key things that we focused on was lifelong learning, meaning although Absite preparation is key, we really want to build people who are going to leave the program and continue to learn for the rest of their lives. And that means working into the busy everyday schedule of surgery, studying. New things come out all the time. In fact, there's an old saying that as soon as a textbook comes out, it's about 4 years out of date, because that's kind of the germination period for a textbook to get done and get out there to the public for consumption. So one of the things we do is we make it an everyday event to study, and part of that is Absite study. We look at the test as something that we do take time to train for specifically, but it's part of an overall package where we're building lifelong learners. Does that make sense?
Makes complete sense. It kind of reminds me of cell phones. Once you get the new thing, it's already old again and they're releasing something else.
That's exactly how it is.
The Absite Smackdown podcast. Visit the Smackdown at absitesmackdown.com.
Hi guys, welcome back. It's me, Jessica, your host of Absite Smackdown podcast. Guess what? We have a YouTube channel and a new video podcast. So follow us for more.
So let me share with you, that's also part of why, as you all help me as the publishers of Absite Smackdown, we update it every year. We tweak the content, we tweak the format, and that's because kind of life and medicine rushes on all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, the Absite is really a test of a lot of the tried and true surgical aphorisms or wise sayings or things that don't really change much, because even though there, like we just said, there are new techniques, there is the revision of how we think of old techniques. The Absite really focuses on core general surgery knowledge to assess originally how well the program was doing to educate resident staff. And then later on, it became much more than that. It now is almost a referendum on the residents and what they're learning, rather than kind of its initial intent, which was to get a sense of how well the program is educating them.
Well, speaking of that, is that important, how the program affects the residents' score?
It is. You know, in another podcast, we talked about key program factors that seem to affect resident scores. And as a program director, I really felt like you're sort of the coach of a team, and your program is that practice, is that program that develops future colleagues. And it's as much a function of the program as it is the individual learner for how they perform on the Absite. And, you know, you also asked, you know, what did you have the staff doing 6 weeks ahead of time? And I got kind of broad with it and talked about lifelong learning. But I'm going to tell you specifically, on our monthly reading list, we synced up a certain topic with reading across multiple books. And these included famous books like Cameron, Schwartz, sometimes even Greenfield, a book that's out of print, that's Surgical Complications, We had a series of books that we went through. So 1 month would be hepatobiliary month, and it would be all about hepatobiliary, and it would include Absite review for hepatobiliary. So 6 weeks ahead of time, we would sort of concentrate on familiarizing the residents with the computer interface for the test. What does it look like and what does it feel like? And in the book, the Absite Smackdown, we have a link to the sample interface put out by the American College of Surgeons online so people can get a feel for that. We had them look at the content and what it is and where it came from, so they kind of know what to study and what sections have more of a focus than others. And so this was at about the 6 to 8 week mark before the test. We'd sort of say, hey, let's get familiar with test specifics and mechanics. There are about 250 questions. There are some test questions, meaning ones that are being evaluated, and it will be sometimes hard to tell which those are, so don't really stress about it. We'd also talk with them about how the difference in score percentile, one person's percentile versus another, can come down to really very few questions. The curve is very steep for the Absite. A couple questions more will propel you to a much higher score, which is fascinating. And last but not least, we'll teach things like a score of 30% or beneath in any year of residency puts you at a higher risk for failing boards. And we did a blog entry about this too, but it doesn't mean you'll fail boards. You're actually still more likely to pass boards than you are to fail boards, even if you've had a 30% score, a percentile score or lower. And we show what that means. We show score reports so they know what they're going to look like. So about the 6 week mark, we used to focus on mechanics of the test specifically. And that's in Absite Smackdown. We share most of those links so that you can get a sense of, or users can get a sense of, exactly how the test works when it's given and what the mechanics are.
Hi guys, it's Jessica, the host of Absite Smackdown podcast. I'm just here with a friendly reminder to follow us on all of our social media. You'll find us on Instagram at Daily Absite Fact. You'll find us on Twitter at Absite Smackdown, on Facebook at Absite Smackdown, on LinkedIn at Absite Smackdown, and of course our website, www.absitesmackdown.com.
That's really the first couple of chapters of the book, really.
Yeah, the beginning of the book sort of talks about why I really wanted to share this with everybody. And then not long after, just like you said, is what are the specific mechanics of the Absite? I find it to be very helpful. When I learned about it, it sure did help me.
Wonderful. Okay, so 6 weeks before, we're your residents. You're going over the broad strokes, the 250 questions, everything and how it applies. And then what? What's next?
Well, it really somewhat depends on the resident. Some residents have, maybe because of a performance less than 30% in a prior year, they have a more of a defined study plan that we've talked about and gone over to help them with their strengths and kind of smooth over any weaknesses that they had in a previous test. That's one thing. But another thing is that we try to get residents to understand some of the things that seem in studies to propel to a better score. So we try to coach them to get the best score and demonstrate the best level of knowledge that we know they have. So some of those include a focus on questions. It turns out that there's a lot of studies, and we cover these in another podcast about doing some questions, that indicate doing a lot of questions is better than less. It's sort of a brute force approach. You got to be careful with this because you can do a whole lot of questions and you'll do better than somebody who didn't do questions, but you won't really have mastered the material. You'll have mastered answering questions and some other things. So to kind of really get at that deep learning, we encourage the use of some core review material. And then on top of that, and it has to be in the study plan, the plan to do a lot of questions, because statistically significantly, it's in a statistically significant way, it seems to correlate with performance. So we have to make time to do questions.
Okay. So nowadays, obviously, residents, they have all these mediums, they have our book, all these study guides. When you were a resident studying for this, what did you do? Give us some of your experience.
Well, I read all the time, every day. And I don't just say that, it was all the time. And one of the things I did every day, after I would read a section about something from like a textbook, it would be the Absite review portion of it. I didn't have all the tools that I wish I did. We had some of the kind of bullet reviews or notebook or outline reviews that are still around. I actually knew two of the people who wrote two of the more well-known books. And I thought that there were some things that I wish they had and that one day I really wanted to share. And that's what started this. So at the end of reading a section, as I went along, I would always read the Absite review. It also helped me with stuff that I didn't get from the textbook or that I missed or that I didn't realize was important. So it was blended into what I did every day all year long in terms of reading.
Hey Absite family, we want to see where you study. So tag us with the hashtag AbsiteAnywhere and the hashtag Sunday Study Smackdown.
Then around Absite time, I would start doing questions. There are several question banks. There are several well-known ones today, and those are really useful. There were some books of questions that we had, but now there are online data banks of questions, and you really just got to use them. They're fantastic. One offers you an assessment, a self-assessment, like a sample test you can take also, and I think it only has one of those that you can take, and then you can use that to kind of help guide your studying. But you have to do questions, and I did. I blended that in as I probably about the 8-week mark before the Absite. Why did I do all this? Well, it really helped me focus, like I said. And like I said in the book, my first time around with the Absite, whether it was because I was on call the night before and kind of fell asleep during it, kind of micro sleep, or whether it was because I hadn't studied enough, or both, my performance my first time around was not what I wanted it to be, and I really wanted to do better. And that's what started me down the pathway for subsequent years.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us today. I'm excited for week 5, week 4, week 3. So I can't wait to meet with you next time. Thank you for helping everybody and doing this podcast today. And again, guys, just remember, 6 weeks out, what should you be doing? Dr. David?
Questions all the way along. And also about this time, learn the mechanics of the test so that you're prepped and you've minimized any surprises for how the test runs on test day.
Perfect. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. And again, remember, hashtag Absite Smackdown.
Thanks for listening to the Absite Smackdown podcast. Visit us at absitesmackdown.com for more great Absite facts.